All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope you all are doing great and having a wonderful day so far. So today I want to talk about something that is really important for MCAT preparation. So we talk to a lot of students about their MCAT prep, and we get sort of a lot of students have sort of preconceived notions about what they need to do, what is important. And if you've seen any of our MCAT training, you know that we sort of have three different focuses that you want going into your MCAT prep. And the first one is content review. Most students know they need to do content review. They come into their MCAT prep expecting to do content review. And another one that most students, maybe not as much as content review, but most students have an idea they need to do is practice. Gotta practice. The third one that generally people are skipping is the strategy breakdown. So the thing that is going to probably make like that extra 10, 15 point difference, even more maybe sometimes for students, is learning strategies for the MCAT exam. And here's why. So by the time you get to the point of preparing for your MCAT exam, you have already been in school for years, right? Students by this point, they're at least juniors in college. So they've had years and years and years of taking science exams, years of experience, right? But the majority, if not all of those exams are discrete question answer. Here is a question, answer it in some way, whether it's free response, multiple choice, whatever. Here is a different question, answer it in some way. So the questions, a lot of times they don't tie together. They certainly aren't related to any sort of greater passage or greater piece of information. And the MCAT exam is just not like that. So all of the training essentially that students have in school on how to take exams isn't really preparing them for a type of exam like the MCAT exam. The MCAT is mainly passage-based. Almost all the questions are based on some sort of high-level passage. So the passages are like science papers, excerpts from scientific papers, things along those lines. So they're higher-level passages. They're already a little bit difficult to read. And then questions are going to expect students to be able to extrapolate beyond what the passage tells them and then answer questions accordingly. So if students don't learn different strategies of how to approach these questions, if they try to go and approach these questions in these passages sort of in the same way that they've just taken exams the entirety of their academic career, then they're going to be kind of a little bit out of a disadvantage. It's not going to be the most effective way to go through the exam. So there are certain strategies that we use whenever we teach our students that are really important to think about as you're preparing for your MCAT. And I'm actually going to throw these on the whiteboard for you all. So the first set of strategies, let's see, maybe I can, my drawing. I don't want to draw, I want to type. Okay, let's make sure you all can see this. Strategies on the MCAT exam. Let me wait for it to pop up on my phone to make sure that you guys can see that. Okay, cool. Looks like y'all can see that. So strategies for the MCAT exam. The first set of strategies you really want to think about is how to read the passage, right? So the MCAT exam passages, you don't want to just sit there and read it the way that you would sit down and read a textbook or the way that you would sit down and read a normal book, any sort of informational book. You don't want to sit down and read it in the same way. That's going to waste a lot of time and you're not going to be getting the right kind of information from it. So whenever you are thinking about how to take an MCAT exam, you need to break down different approaches for reading the passage. Things to keep in mind: you don't need all the information from the passage. You don't have a lot of time. And also different passages have different, how would I want to put it, maybe like approaches that will work well. So some passages are very dense, very high level, very heavy in the material, I guess you could say. Some passages are a little bit harder to read. I mean, a little bit easier to read. They're a little bit lighter. Some passages are going to be on content that you just do not feel good about. That's like me with biology. I do not love biology. A biology passage, I will not read the same as a chemistry passage. My PhD is in chemistry, so I'm a chemist. Chemist passages are going to be very easy for me. Chemistry passages are going to be very easy for me. Biology is like my least favorite subject in the world. I'm going to not read those types of passages the same way because I'm going to be able to understand a chemistry passage much, much more easily and at a higher level than I'm going to be able to understand a biology passage. So you want to have multiple different strategies for reading these passages. You also have experimental passages. And in these experimental passages, there's also different sets of information that are going to be more important than others. So first off, make sure you have different approaches of how to read the passage, first and foremost. Don't just read it like you read a book. Secondly, make sure you have different types of approaches that you can know how to handle the different types of passages differently, that you know how to handle different types of content differently. And then thirdly, you want to keep time in mind. You honestly probably want to be able to get through a passage with all of the questions in like 7 minutes, ideally. This exam is, you don't have enough time to read and casually go and answer everything because it is timed, and the people who write that do that on purpose. They know that. So you're going to have to prioritize things, but also you want to keep that in mind whenever you're reading. The strategies that you have for reading through the passages, you want to make sure that they're efficient time-wise. So another type of strategy that's important to keep in mind is what types of questions are there. So there's a few different types of questions you're going to see, and knowing those types of questions that are going to come up, being able to identify what type of question it is going to help you sort of have different approaches for how to find the correct answers. Similarly, you also want to know patterns of wrong answer choices. There are certain patterns that are always there in maybe not every question, but the majority of the questions on the exam, because again, it is standardized. So you want to be able to recognize those patterns. And even if it's a question where you have to guess, you can very quickly check it off. Be like, oh, well, I know at least this answer choice is wrong because it follows this wrong answer pattern that I'm aware that this exam has. So those are strategies you want to keep in mind. And then lastly, probably almost as important as learning different ways to read the passage, you also want to have time strategies. The exam is timed. I said that a few times, and you don't have a lot of time to get through the exam. So you want to have strategies for how to prioritize getting the most questions correct in the shortest amount of time. That means you're going to have to, what we call triage. You're going to have to triage different passages, triage different questions to make sure that you're spending your time on things that you're more likely to get correct. So that's kind of a big one. Spend your time on the things you're more likely to get correct. Don't get sucked into those questions that, okay, maybe I should say correct quickly, right? Don't get sucked into those questions where it's like, oh, maybe it's a long chemistry calculation or a long physics calculation, and you kind of get them right about 50% of the time, but they take you 5 minutes to get through. Well, then skip those questions. If you only have a 50-50 shot of getting it correct anyway, and it's going to take you several minutes to get through, that's not a good use of your time. It's not an effective use of your time. Skip that question, come back to it at the end if you have extra time remaining. So that kind of strategy, thinking, how can I maximize my probability of getting things correct in the shortest amount of time so that I can get through this exam with the amount of time that I have, because it's not a lot. So these are kind of some of the most important strategies to keep in mind. There are others, but I just want to give you guys, I don't want to overwhelm you guys. I just want to give you kind of a higher level view of strategies that are important to keep in mind, but don't sleep on your strategies, right? Content review obviously is important. Everybody knows that. Practicing is also very important. But if you're not also incorporating strategies, learning about the exam, about the standardization of the exam, then you're shorting yourself some points. I guarantee if you take some time to incorporate strategies as well into your prep, you're going to give yourself a boost of at least a few points on your exam score. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. If you all have any questions about MCAT prep, or if you're interested in getting some support as you get ready for your exam, we do have a program for MCAT prep. We have a comprehensive program, and then we have a lot of other resources as well. So feel free to reach out to me. You can shoot me a DM if you're interested in that, or you can, I guess I should put, you can go to our website. Well, I'll just put it in the chat. You can put, I'll put a link to the calendar in the chat, and you can click on that and schedule a time with me. I hope this was helpful. If you like trainings like this, throw it in the comments and we'll do some more along these lines, and wishing you all a great week. I'll see everybody next week.